when you invest in your business, and that means you're quote unquote successful enough to where you're like, listen, I have to take this time that I once did editing, or that I once did creating graphics, or I once did doing something as it relates to like, I don't necessarily not enjoy those things, but I need to take that time and put it aside because my time is money. And so I can reallocate my time and say, I'm not spending time editing a podcast. Instead, I'm going to use that time for this. And that time may be spending time with your family, living the life that you choose based on that. But I never heard it said that way, to where it's like, hey, you know what else you're actually doing? You're investing in that person's career.
I'm Junaid Ahmed, host of Hacks and Hobbies podcast and a digital presence advisor at HumbleZone. This episode is brought to you by Home Studio Mastery. I launched a consultation and course program to help podcasters and course creators to create a space in their homes that will reduce the friction of creating content and appearing their best when showing up on camera. The pandemic gave us a lot of issues, but this one is here to stay. We're now so much closer to our audience thanks to video becoming more popular and affordable. I help guide folks who want to create Hollywood-worthy studios to not only capture great content, but also build more confidence, more authority, and be more comfortable in front of the camera. If I can do it, you can too. And with my help, you can do it faster. So if you'd like to learn more, visit homestudiomastery.com and how you too can create a home studio that brings out your personality, professionalism, and possibilities. Thank you for tuning in to Hacks and Hobbies with your host, Junaid. We're visited by our amazing guests coming from all walks of life, who want to learn their story, their struggles, and their journey on how they got to where they are today. So stick around. Today we get to speak with my really good friend Chris Stone. With a 25+ year of history in the music industry with Sony, driven and passionate entrepreneur, Chris Stone founded a podcast and live streaming consultancy, Cast Ahead, after the success of his own co-hosted podcast changed his life. At Cast Ahead, Chris thrives on enabling driven entrepreneurs, influencers, thought leaders, and enterprises to express their story and elevate their reach while extending their efficiency in that process. Chris is also the co-host of Dealcasters, an Amazon live show with Jim Fuse of Fusion Marketing, where they interview experts and entrepreneurs while training Amazon customers how to overcome the fear of technology and start and flourish in their content creator journeys. In just over a year, Dealcasters have established themselves as a trusted authority, not only in the live video and podcasting space, but also in the education of the Amazon Influencer Program and the development of influencers already on that platform. Now, they've spoken on stages and virtually at Podfest Expo, VidFest Expo, StreamYard Industry Showcase, Agora Pulse Agency Summit, Midwest Digital Marketing Conference, Social Media Week, and others. After so much amazing work and following Chris Stone over the past couple of years and meeting him through Dealcasters and social media marketing world in person, I truly know that this man knows a thing or two about podcasting and live streaming. So let's dig into the episode and jump into the conversation with Chris Stone. Before further ado, welcome back to another episode of Hacks and Hobbies. In this episode, we get to speak with Chris Stone, my very good friend from the Dealcasters Live. He's one of the co-hosts, a really good friend of mine. Got to meet him at Social Media Marketing for the first time, but we've been connected for over 2 years, and every time we see each other, we're smiling like crazy people because we love our energies, we love what we stand for, we love what we do, and I'm so glad, I'm so honored to bring him on the podcast. Chris, welcome to the show.
Dude, you know I'm honored. You know I'm a huge fan. What the heck took you so long, Junaid, to get me on the show? I'm sitting around here doing nothing.
I know.
And it took this long, but yeah, you're right. I'm a fan of people like yourself that involve themselves in a lot of different things, right? But still work on those things that are most important to them. If I listed everything that you had going on in your life, which I'm guessing probably your family is paramount, because I see that on social media. That's part of your, I don't want to say your family's part of your brand. It just is who you are. It's part of your DNA more than anything. But you also have so many things going on. And I think immediately I connected with you, not just because you had all of these bells and whistles and amazing video tricks that I had to learn right away. And my reptilian brain was like, I want to do all of those things. But I could identify immediately with you. And I think one of the great things about live video that we found out over the past a couple of years since we've known each other is this is what you get. If you're watching this video, or maybe it translates in audio as well. These are the people who we are. This isn't a put on. Yeah, we get a little more amped up, maybe because I had 2 cups of coffee here 20 minutes ago. We get a little amped up doing this stuff, but we love doing it, and we want to create something great, not because we want some sort of notoriety, but we genuinely like doing this for people. I mean, Junaid, you've got this home studio mastery, and I watch these videos and I see these people get better. And that has to be so rewarding for you, just like it is when we're doing, Dealcasters on Amazon. Somebody gets to the end of the show and they're like, we're starting our podcast tomorrow. Yeah. I bought my headphones. Those are coming on Prime. They're going to be delivered here. I'm starting my podcast tomorrow. We've helped them with mic technique. We've helped them with lighting. We've helped them with headphones. We've even talked to them about what podcast hosts they should use based on their budget. And they got through all that stuff and they started their podcast. And that, to us, is really why we're doing it. The other stuff that happens is nice, but I think don't tell Amazon, but I think we might do it for free if we could.
You're absolutely right, because when you see that transformation, you see the look on their faces, because they're getting to do stuff that they love to do, right? They want to try this, even if they don't like it at the end of 2 weeks, at the end of a month or 2 months. At least they gave it a try. At least they know what's out there. And you're absolutely right. If you're kind of tired of doing the live stream, if you're kind of tired of doing the podcasting, what in the podcasting are you tired of? Because there are a ton of different things when you're doing a podcasting. Like, my favorite part is having conversations. Yeah. I love editing. I've edited audio for decades, but when it came to this, I'm like, well, I know I can do it. I can do it really good, but do I really want to spend my time doing that? So I ended up hiring somebody. And when you hire somebody, don't think of it that you're paying money out. Yes, you are paying money out, but you are also giving somebody else an opportunity to make a living. An opportunity to make a living, an opportunity to level up their livelihood. Like my editor that's been with me for over 2 years tells me that my kids are so happy. We have a great house. So anytime we come on video, she's like, "Oh, check out Mr. Junaid. Here he is. He's got a podcast." And so it's really amazing to see that. I'm like, whoa, I did that.
Yeah, that's a great point. A lot of people don't think about that. Like, when you invest in your business, and that means, you're quote unquote successful enough to where you're like, listen, I have to take this time that I once did editing, or that I once did creating graphics, or I once did, doing something as it relates to, like, I don't necessarily not enjoy those things, but I need to take that time and put it aside, because my time is money. And so I can reallocate my time and say, I'm not spending time editing a podcast.
Yeah.
Instead, I'm going to use that time for this. And that time may be spending time with your family, living the life that you choose based on that. But I never heard it said that way, to where it's like, hey, you know what else you're actually doing? You're investing in that person's career. You're saying, hey, I'm paying you what you're worth to do this for me, and I hope you get better by doing that, because you're giving them sort of a sandbox to play in. I think, you know, and so their resume gets built up, right? Because they're doing the Hacks and Hobbies podcast from Junaid Ahmed. So, I mean, they immediately shot all the way to the top, I'm sure, and got all kinds of more business for you. But I think it's important to think about it that way too. That's a go-giver mentality right there. Is not just, hey, I want to invest in my business, so I'm going to hire somebody to do something. You're saying, I'm giving that person a better career, and I want to make that person better, right? And so I do the same thing with the people that I have on my staff. Is, you know, that's really, you know, for years I had been, you know, at a manager level for Sony. And one of the things I loved doing was manage other people to success, is to kind of look at, you know, not just celebrate the things that they did really well and kind of help them do that, but like look for opportunities for them to grow, talk about what they wanted to do in careers, which, by the way, may not have been in the music business, right? It could have been something else, right? But helping that person get better. And so when I have other people that I'm hired in the business that I'm doing, I love to talk to them about what they want to do and what they're passionate about. And that's the great thing about this podcast and about you, is that sometimes I've talked to people and it's like, well, you know, thank you for hiring me to do graphics or social media or video editing and all these, the people that I have doing what, you know, which is a part of the business that I have at Cast Ahead. But like, I'll find out that they really like doing, you know, playing music. Oh, really? You're a piano player. Okay, cool. I might be able to connect you with somebody else. And if you have a podcast, what's a really underrated aspect of a podcast is the ability to network with people.
Oh my God.
You know, it's unbelievable the amount of people that you can meet, because, you know, if you have a podcast, you need to have other people on your podcast. So it's not, you don't necessarily have to pay somebody. In fact, I've never paid for someone to have, even though, Junaid, thank you for your $2 million contribution to Chris Stone and Cast Ahead to be on your podcast. But no, seriously, it's a great way to meet people and to network. And your camera to camera, the world is flat with Zoom and with all StreamYard and all of these great Ecamm, everything that you could do to connect with people on the screen and really be able to identify with those people and then say, oh, you play piano? Oh, I know Jill plays piano and she's a singer, and you guys need to connect because I think you would be a great and all of a sudden you're creating this network and you never really leave your home. It's crazy.
Chris, you're absolutely on point. The networking aspect, and it's not just networking, it's actually building a relationship, because we're dedicating 45 minutes to an hour to have a really deep conversation, and the conversation can go anywhere. And when you start off when talking to somebody new, it's like, okay, what's the first thing I should ask? Let's get to know them, right? But we've been connected for so long. It's like, I don't even have to use my questions to
what's a
into
question?
The conversation, right? So,
do we have an agenda? I didn't see it. You know, that's the beautiful part of it. It's
exactly.
Yeah.
So I love to start with especially for my audience to get to know who I'm talking with. Now, you and I have met. You know, we've known each other for a while, but my audience might not have heard of you yet. So, tell us a version of your story that no one's heard of before, or just a little tiny bit of an origin story of where Chris Stone hails from.
Oh, okay. Well, I hail from just north of Detroit, Michigan, born and raised. Actually, here's something not many people know. I actually went to high school with Bobby Ritchie, who's also known as Kid Rock. So
No way.
there's something right there that I don't think I've ever said on any podcast. So yes, Bob Ritchie, and back then he was Bobby, but now he's, Bob. He graduated a year after I did from high school in Romeo, Michigan, which is north of Detroit. And so I grew up a huge music fan. Music has always been a part of my life. It is intrinsic in me. It's part of my DNA. My dad was a trumpet player. He played in big bands and did tours, and was just there was always music in my house, whether it was Glenn Miller or Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass or Kenny Rogers, didn't matter. There was always music, and I always had an appreciation for various kinds of music, but really sort of fell in love with playing more rock-oriented, alternative-oriented, and jazz music. And so I really developed an affinity for the bass guitar. Nice. And so a lot of it had to do with the fact that every band needs a bass player. Typically you've got a guitar player, you've got a drummer, and you've got a singer, and it's just sort of like, everybody needs a bass player. So it was an easy way to sort of get in that sandbox, like we talked about. Yeah. And start to get your reps in, start to get better at what you're doing. And so I originally wanted to be a computer science major, so started there in Michigan, and decided in my second semester, I stood up in a class and realized this was not for me, right? I wasn't passionate about programming anymore. And what I was passionate about was music. And the thing about me is that any band that I've ever been in, I may have been involved in the writing process, but I was the only one who did the business. So when it came to booking the gigs, doing the flyers, contacting college radio stations for interviews, all of the things that you do from a DIY promotional aspect for your band, I was doing. And I loved doing it, and I got pretty good at it. Yeah. And so I started to do that more and more. And so I said, you know what? I want to do this. I want to play music, but I also want to learn the business. And I went to Belmont University in Nashville and decided I would get a music business degree, and at the same time be in sort of the epicenter of Music City, right? Even though I was not a fan of country or playing country music, or which Nashville's known for, and the other kind of music Nashville's known for is contemporary Christian music, which I was not really a fan of either. Yeah. But I said, you know what? I'm going to learn how to do this. There's got to be some sort of other scenes going on. Sure enough, there was, and I went to Belmont to study music business, and at the same time, I was able to be in bands. One band I was in actually recorded our entire album on the campus in that studio. Nice. And put out an album. I was in other bands as well, but eventually, sort of that dream of even though we were sniffed by major record labels and all those other things, they just were. It was like, I needed to grow up. I developed this. I got this job for Sony right out of college. Yeah. I had interned for them for 2 years. Right out of college, I started with Sony Music, and quickly started to escalate in that company. And you just get to the point where it's like, I got a wife, I got kids. It's time to cut my hair. Cut these bands that are just kind of like dragging me down, moved to Atlanta, and started as a branch manager for Sony, covering the Southeast, eventually the entire eastern half of the United States for Sony, and did that for 27 years. Holy smokes. So this was before there was such a thing as digital music. I started there. Before Napster, before iTunes. Yes. So one other component of my story that was a real sort of pivot for me, and why I decided to really focus in on digital and digital music was, we had heard about MP3s and MP3.com and what that was originally. What it was originally was people were taking MP4s or MOV files, and they were just ripping the audio from them. And then there was all kinds of file sharing going on, and whether it was trading hard drives drives or swapping files there, or via Napster, it was happening. So very early in the process, I started tinkering with it because I needed to know what was going on. And, I worked for, the second biggest music company in the world. And so I had it all on my computer at the time. And I remember taking my computer and walking into my EVP's office and setting it on his desk and opening it up. And I said, this is coming. And if we don't do something about it, then it's just going to, I don't know what it could do, but it's not good, right?
Right, yeah.
And I remember him being more upset at me for putting something like that was piracy on Sony-owned
Company computer,
company equipment than the actual, okay, stop worrying about that. Do you not see what's happening? This is happening everywhere. And of course, all the other things like, oh, well, this doesn't sound as good as the real thing. And people want to look at liner notes and all of those things that are like, obviously now that's not what the kids at the time, they didn't care about it. They just wanted the entire catalog from Metallica or whatever it was. And so that's when I said, you know what? I said, put me on every single task force that you have for digital. And if there isn't, I want to head it up. Yeah. And so he's like, all right, we could do that. And so that's when I went full force into that, made the transition to manage the mobile business, which at the time was ringtones, if you remember that. Like you would buy a phone.
Ringtones, yes.
Yes, you would pay $2.49 for a 30-second snippet, because that's really the only thing you could do with your phone. And look, it's AC/DC Back in Black when somebody calls me. And so, I jumped from one sinking ship with the physical product onto another sinking ship, which was ringtones.
Yeah.
And I quickly said, you know what? Streaming is starting to become a thing. Spotify was launching in other countries, hadn't made its way to the US.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of that going on. And so, of course, I transitioned into that and eventually became basically the Sony digital person that was the day-to-day person for Spotify. And so that really became my thing. But knowing all along, because the music business had gone down significantly, there really was not, I was the only person that wasn't either in New York or LA or Nashville. And so I knew at some point, because they were offering me all kinds of things to move to New York. But the two things that I find that are most important to me is being a father and being a husband.
Yeah.
And if I moved myself and my family to LA or to New York to work at a job, then I was not being the best husband and father that I could be. I knew I would be working more hours. I knew it would be more stress. I knew I wouldn't be able to go to the soccer matches. I wouldn't be able to go to the plays. I wouldn't be able to go to those things that are important as a father to show up for and as a husband. And so I developed this business, Cast Ahead, because I had worked with musicians all my life to develop how they look and sound. And podcasting and live streaming is a way that content creators, doesn't matter if you're doing music, it doesn't, or underwater basket weaving. Yeah. If you want a show, I know how to make a show for you. And if you don't want to know how the show is made, then I'm perfect for you, because that's what I do for you.
Yeah. Because you don't have to worry about it. You just show up, say your piece.
Exactly.
And say adios. And next thing you know, you're making millions on podcast downloads, That's what you do.
Yeah, most people don't want to know how the sausage is made. They just see something and they go, I want that.
I want that.
And so we do our best to make that, but I think everyone is individual, right? Yeah. So if someone sees Junaid Ahmed's studio and they go, I want that. It's like, okay, well, Junaid's taken. Right. Let's work on you. Let's work on what you want to look like and what you want to sound. And I think once people go that route, then they understand. Like, well, I saw this woman on YouTube, and she does this and she does that. She does that. I was like, okay, maybe you can be influenced by that person, but don't try to make a Xerox copy of what she's doing.
Because there's only one of her, and there's only one of you. So why try to be somebody else when you can be yourself?
100%.
I love that journey, that story, and I can see all of the steps, and you just keep climbing each step, and it's basically taken to your path. Like, you're learning, You're looking what's coming ahead, and with Web 3.0, and we all heard what this at social media marketing world, like Web 3.0, NFT, all of that stuff that's coming now. It's still a little early. It's not too late. People say it's too late. No, it's still early, right? You can still get in now and understand what this technology is going to do for us. So thank you so much, man. I love that.
Yeah, of course.
And I mean, as you're going through that, you're also talking about your motivations on why you keep doing these things, telling people, don't do that because it's making you miserable. How about we help you along the way? How about you do what you love to do? And there's so many examples of people that are doing the things that they're doing. They just continue to do that one thing, and then they're documenting it along the way.
Yes. Yeah. I think when it comes to someone developing a show, I think and I know this sounds like, trite, it's been used a million times, but you have to understand what the purpose is and really understand what that is. And so, a lot of times I'll talk to somebody and they're a particular company, and it doesn't matter what company it is. It could be pest control. It could be anything. And if the purpose of what this is to generate more income for their business, which is a totally viable reason for doing a podcast. You want to generate money, and doing a podcast can be a way to do that. But if you don't like podcasting, you still can create a show that isn't necessarily about pest control. It isn't necessarily about whatever your particular business is, because when you create a show that you're passionate about, it gets you out there. It gets you in 90 countries. It gets you on all the tubes. You're going to be, and if you create a show that you're passionate about, you're going to create a tribe of people that will listen to you and follow you. And if you happen to be a pest control person who has a podcast, that's pretty cool. And that's a really good differentiator for you that not many people in that business have. And I think that's another way of kind of flipping it on people, because they say, well, I'm this, so how can I have a podcast about this? You don't necessarily have to have a podcast about that business you want to create attention for. So I think that's the other thing that people get twisted is, start where your purpose is, start where what you want to do, identify who those people are that you want to, like, if you're in, I keep on using pest control. I have no idea why I came up with that, Junaid. But
well, it is springtime and my wife just hired, pest control.
I just killed a bunch of ants in my kitchen, by the way. Maybe that's why that's just sort of like in the back of my mind. But, I think, if you, like, there's this avatar, right? Or your ideal listener, your ideal customer, the person that you would hope is buying your whatever you're doing. If it's, I got to think of something besides pest control, but whoever your ideal customer is, yes, plumbing. Thank you. So, you are catering to that demo, and then niche it down. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you're creating, Roger Wakefield is a perfect example, right? Met him at Social Media Marketing World. Everybody knows who he is, right?
Yes.
What a differentiator that is for him. And there's a ton of people that are in plumbing that wished they had done that.
Yeah.
They had wished that they had done that. They wished that they had. How many ideas did you have along the way of doing a particular business, and then you didn't pursue it? It was just some idea that you kind of talked about maybe, and then all of a sudden, years later, somebody has that idea, and it's $1 million idea, and you're like, I had that idea. You know what?
You didn't do anything with it. Yeah.
No, you didn't do anything about it. Yes, exactly. So that's really where I start with a lot of people, is like, I want to inspire them to do something. And by the time I get done with my 30-minute consultation call or 1-hour consultation call or whatever, they may be more confused than when they first called me, but I think it's okay, because I think a lot of times they think that they need to do something, and I tell them, no, you're going the wrong way. You need to take a left at Albuquerque. And this is where I think you, and there's been a few that have come back and said, I have another idea. You made me think about this.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about doing this show and doing this and doing this. And I'll be like, is that something that you're going to be happy about doing?
Yeah.
Or is that a passion project for you? Yeah. Okay, cool. You know, now you got something you could work with and try to figure out how you could still achieve the purpose that you had, that you originally wanted to accomplish.
Man, I love that, because what you're saying here is figure out what's going to make you really excited.
Yeah.
What's going to make you really happy, and then work on that aspect of it. And I've gone through, and it doesn't have to be the same thing for the rest of your life. No way. You can change, because human beings change all the time. I was a beekeeper. I'm still a beekeeper, but not as involved. I was a cyclist for a few years, not as involved because more of a parent, spending a lot of time. And now I'm building home studios because it's something that I can help others, create a space for themselves to reduce that friction, to be able to create content for their businesses, for their own sanity.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I equate it to a shark, right? The shark is always doing this, right? Always moving forward, but not a straight line. Right?
That's straight line,
like, if you think like that and you say, because, I understand that, for me, I have to involve myself in a number of things because it's just the way I am, and other people are not that way. And I totally get that. But I feel like if I stop something, I'm not moving forward anymore. I'm moving backward. And by you saying what you said about, beekeeping and cycling, and now where you're at with that, you're still moving forward. You're taking, there are experiences that you've had all along the way that even prior to beekeeping, prior to cycling, prior to all of those things that you've had that got you to this point that you're using, you don't even realize it. You have your mentality and how to help people, some of it's innate, I believe, but it's also because you've surrounded yourself with other people that help sort of, sharpen your irons. You have a desire to do those things, but where did that come from? And where did that come from? And so you might not even know, there's a lot of things that I probably am using in my video editing that has something to do with my ability to sit down and play bass guitar over the years, and maybe music theory and all of those things kind of molded me to be where I'm at right now. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to stop doing this, or I might want to do something else that I'm super passionate about. Whether it's, I might become a beekeeper. Actually, I don't. I'm petrified of bees.
Petrified of bees. Yes.
Yeah.
No, man, you're 100% right. And that's the beauty of the era that we're living in. We're able to switch gears. We're able to get into something, and within a month, within 30 days, you have a really good understanding of where you want to head out to. And you could probably hear the door being knocked down yet again.
The other thing I wanted to touch on too is kind of back to the shark analogy, and kind of back to what you're talking about, moving around and doing multiple things, and you're touching on here and all of the things that we have at our disposal that I didn't have when I was 15 years old and trying to learn how to play bass. I had to go to an instructor physically in a music store and sit down and learn how to play whatever song I wanted to learn, and so it's different now, right? So now at your disposal is computer software that you can use that helps you, that is free. And YouTube is just a massive, massive, massive way to learn things for free. And then if you do want to invest in how to do that, it's just an additional thing that you can do to even level up higher. But what's really important if you want to do a lot of different things is to put in the work. And, Jim Fuse and myself, we do a show on Amazon called Dealcasters. And we go live every so often, but we also do things like product videos. We take our content like you do, Junaid, and repurpose it into a podcast. And we've gotten a lot of opportunities to speak at different events. And, people will look at what we're doing and they'll say we're quote unquote experts. I don't love hearing that, honestly. I mean, I'm flattered to a bit, but it's like, listen, we're not experts because the true experts are the people that work for Amazon, right?
Yeah,
we just are. We feel like we're pretty good detectives. Like we take apart the entire site and everything that we're doing and we study it and we analyze it and we test and we do things all the time. And then when we get a new piece of gear in, and just like you, Junaid, it's like we're testing it out. I'm going to see how well, if I have it going through my switcher and I'm pulling it in this software and I'm doing this, all of these things that we're doing, we love to do. We're passionate about doing it, but also like we are actually putting in the work to get to that spot. So it's really important, I think, and never should be an afterthought. Like if you're thinking about doing something and you're investigating, nobody gets better by watching a YouTube video about it. It's good that you're getting that information. The only way to get better is to do it and then do it again and then do it again and then do it again. It's the most important thing because now you've got 300 and something episodes of this podcast. Is that right?
Something around there.
Okay. The way you get to this point is to do it that many times and more, and to have the desire to get better every time you do it. Now, not every show is going to be he's going to be a winner. We all know that, and not every show is going to be for everyone. That's the other thing as a content creator. Like some people, they're not into me. That's okay.
Right. That's totally fine. Yeah.
They're not into you. They're not into, we've got people that are like, I had no understand why, how do people like that guy, or whatever. It's just, that's the way it is. But it's the only way to do it is to keep going and moving forward like that shark and continue to do more and more of it, especially if you love it. So,
man, I couldn't have said it any better. That was just beautiful because keep moving forward, but you can't move forward till you get started. So get started and then keep moving forward. And if you don't like it, guess what? You can take another route.
Yep.
Find people around you to also help motivate and support you.
Yes.
Because not everybody is an island. No way. We want each other. We want to support each other. So if you have any questions around how do I start a podcast, you got Chris and myself to help you. There's a ton of people out there. There's so many people that want to help you. There's YouTube full of it. When you mentioned about how we are living in an era that the knowledge is on our fingertips. 20 years ago, you'd have to have a computer, you'd have to have a modem, a separate phone line in order for you to get online.
I think I think you need a modem. I think you need a modem line in that other room.
I think I do too.
This is the beauty of it. Like, we're so many minutes into a podcast. So this is the other thing that I've learned as a podcast and video editor. I think, the first X amount of minutes are important to make sure we're going to be giving you this. This is what you can expect. And, and so if people spin off at that point, they're like, this isn't for me. Cool. Yeah. But then get to the content, get to the conversation, get to what you're going to talk about. But like, if we're 30 minutes in on a podcast and there's a kid screaming in the other room or a dog barking or your phone going off or any of that kind of stuff, I think people are a lot more forgiving. And this is what you get. We're fathers, and that's a part of it.
Absolutely. Hold on. This is when I want to build an outhouse with my studio far away. You have to climb some ladders to get up on the treehouse to get
some sound treatment in there. There you go. Yes. Awesome.
But what's beautiful about the time that we're living in is that anybody and everybody can get on the internet. There's no more friction. Back in the days, you really had to be involved. You really needed to be a tech enthusiast to get online and talk to your people. But now everybody and anybody is getting on, and it's a pretty interesting world. Yeah, and this is still just the beginning.
Yeah, and I think maybe that's why, at least I could speak for myself, maybe that's why I'm willing to put in the work. I mean, I've spent hours and hours and hours sometimes trying to figure out a piece of gear, whether it's a gimbal or software, or like, one of the things that, and I've since told clients this, but they'll come to me and they'll say, I need to do this, and I need this particular software to do this, and I want to be able to have a moderated chat where I pull in this, that, or the other. And as they're saying it, in my mind, I know I'm not going to be able to do it. Yeah. And they say, is this something you could do? And I don't know why, but immediately what comes out of my mouth is yes. And yes,
you're
yes,
shaking
I can
your head
do that.
no, but you're saying yes.
Yes, and then they say, well, how much is it going to cost? And I give them a price that feels uncomfortable to me. And then because I know I'm going to have to take hours to figure out how to make that happen. Yeah. And so. But years and years and years, like you talked about, you dial in with a 56K baud modem and you have to take over the phone line in your home and like all of those things. It was such a pain just to get on a bulletin board system and read like notes that somebody had posted. Now you're getting notifications that your voice activated device gives you. And like nobody has to like get out of bed and do some of the things that took us hours to do 10 years ago. I'm sounding like a, grandpa telling people to get off their lawn, but I think that's one of the reasons why I'm so willing to put in all of that work, is because I love to take things apart and put them back together to figure out how all of that works. Now, 9 times out of 10, there's parts left over, but it still works. So that's okay.
Hey, sometimes you're gonna have a screw left behind. Like, I don't know where that screw goes, but my phone's still working. Yeah.
Well, so I have a hobby for you, Junaid.
Sure.
That you may not know that
existed.
It's almost that I have. Okay. And I told you I was a bass guitar and a musician. Right?
We're getting right onto that right now.
Oh, okay. It's just wow, almost like it was planned.
It's almost like it was planned. Wow, who'd know? So, Chris, has been so much fun, but I do towards the end of the episode, I like to ask these quick web questions that help us get a little bit deeper into the mind of Chris Stone. So, what is the one hobby? Shallow. What is the one hobby that you wish you got into?
That I wished I got into? That I never did?
Yeah.
I wished I had learned to play the piano early in life, because then I would know how to read music. And I feel like, everything that I learned in terms of music was all by ear. And I think there's a talent involved there, being able to plug something in, hear what somebody else is playing, and know how to play that on your instrument. Yeah. But I also wished I had the sort of, the teaching of reading music, which I actually learned to do and then forgot. I had to learn to read music when I went to college. Yeah. So I did as much as I could there in order to pass my class, and I was like, this is not something I want to do. I am not passionate about this, but I feel like I would have been a better musician, perhaps, and better. I don't know. It would have taught me something that I'm doing right here. So piano,
now you can tell
music.
me the one hobby that I didn't know.
Oh, okay. So I play the world's oldest electronic instrument, and I've also created them and made them myself as well. Have you ever heard of the instrument called the theremin?
I have not.
Okay, it's the world's oldest electronic instrument, and it was invented by a Russian scientist named Leon Theremin, who many thought he disappeared, and many thought he was a part of the KGB, although that's proven. Fantastic documentary if you ever want to kind of if you're interested in the theremin. It's called Theremin: An Electronic Odyssey. But basically, it's a box that has, oscillators and tubes and stuff in it, and it's got one antenna that goes left to right and one that goes up and down.
Okay.
And so the sound that comes out of it is generated by never touching it. You wave your arms around it. Ooh. And so you control the volume with the antenna that goes left to right, and then you control the pitch with your other hand. And so the closer that your hand gets to the antenna, the higher the pitch. So if you remember those old sci-fi flicks, and you'd hear this.
Yeah. That's what they use.
That's a theremin. Oh. That is a theremin. So it doesn't have any frets. It doesn't have any way for you to say, okay, when I move my hand to this point, that's going to be a C. This is going to be an A note. This is going to be. So you just basically have to listen to the note that you're hitting. And so I became, it's an instrument that I just fell in love with, and I decided, okay, I want it. So I bought the parts and kit and put it together and made my own theremin. It sounds like garbage. But then I figured, then they started making them where you could put them together yourself and do a couple solder points and kind of make that. So I, did that and then actually incorporated it into 2 different bands that I had. And so what I used to do is I put it on the side of the stage to where nothing was around it, because if you go near it, it was hooked up to an amp and it would create and people are like, whoa, what the heck? What happened? Yeah. So what I would do is I'd pull it near me when I had a song that we were playing, and I would use the headstock, the top part of the bass, and I would use that to make the notes while I was playing the bass. So there you go. That's the theremin.
That is really cool. I love it. All right. Next quick question. What did you want to be when you were a child?
When I was a child, I wanted to be a football player. I played a bunch of sports. I was into, football, basketball, ran track, did all that, baseball, did all of that stuff. And of course, when you're little, you think you have aspirations to be the next whatever, Barry Sanders or whatever. But then I'm all of 5'9" and $170. So it's not like I'm going to be playing on Saturdays or Sundays anytime soon.
Okay, got it. So maybe. Maybe we have a way to do that. What is your favorite movie or TV show? I'm a huge Star Wars fan. Okay. And those that are on the screen can probably see my Star Wars plaque that's back there for the soundtrack that I had worked when I was at Sony. But so probably the favorite of the Star Wars movies is Empire Strikes Back. But I love the stuff that Disney's doing with the Mandalorian, and just kind of a fan of that whole thing. My favorite comedy is Raising Arizona, if you remember that, with Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage sounds familiar, yeah. Yeah, that's just a really whacked out movie from the Coen brothers, and Nicolas Cage is fantastic, and I believe that was late 80s, maybe? Probably late 80s, yeah. I think it was late 80s. I'll have to check it out. I'm a big Nicolas Cage fan that I don't actively, admit to, but I'll watch a good. Well, yeah, I mean, not every one of his movies are great. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think maybe even he'd tell you that, I'm not going to speak for Nicolas Cage, though. No, he can do that on his own. What movie would you choose if you got to play a character in it? And this is what I was saying. Maybe there's some football in there. It would be hard for me to pass as a football player. Sure. It's kind of like that's not really believable. So if I could be in a movie. God, I haven't really even thought of this. So I'm just going to say, H.I. McDonough, the character on Raising Arizona by Nicolas Cage. Nice. That'd be the character that I would be. That would be the character. Stealing diapers with pantyhose over my face in a scene in Raising Arizona. Yeah. Yeah. How about that? That's very accurate. I mean, that's very graphic. Not accurate. Graphically accurate. Graphically accurate. Who is your favorite superhero? That'd be Batman.
I think just Batman was just always, I had the comics growing up and loved, that first movie that came out. And so, and I was just always been a Batman fan. Yeah. Although the movies, the DC movies just don't even compare, right, to the Marvel, the Marvel ones. But
they're working.
I mean, Wonder
hard.
Woman was the first Wonder Woman was awesome, but I think the most of the DC movies, just don't compare to the Marvel ones. But yeah, Batman for sure.
Batman for sure.
Just because I feel like his superpower, if you will, was like gadgets, right?
It is gadgets, literally, and that's what we're living in.
Right.
We got gadgets all around us. It's pretty funny.
Right.
Man, maybe we are Batman.
Yeah, I was going to say, I am Batman. I'm Batman.
I'm Iron Man.
Iron
Groot.
Man's yours?
I am Groot. Yes, mine is Iron Man.
Yeah, excellent choice. Yes, another gadget.
Another gadget junkie right there,
Yeah.
Last question. If you were a board game, what would it be?
Wow. Candyland.
Okay.
I like to keep it simple and fun.
Keep it very simple.
Keep it simple and fun.
You're just having fun.
My acronym that I like to steal, I'll give credit to Craig Groeschel on this one, who does Global Leadership Summit. And I stole this acronym from him, but I use it all the time. It's GETMO, and it stands for Good Enough to Move On. So if you're a content creator, sometimes keeping it simple is the most effective way to move forward.
Yeah.
And that is why I choose Candyland as my board game, because believe it or not, if you hang around with little kids like Junaid, I know you do, like Candyland is still fun. Is such a simple game.
I'm gonna have to check that one out because I don't think I've ever played that game before.
Oh, dude, Candyland. It's a classic.
Right. Okay. We'll have to look that one up. Chris, thank you so much for coming on.
Junaid, thank you, man. It's been an honor.
Yeah, dude. It was like this hour went by really quickly.
Did.
Where can my audience find you?
Yeah, you can go to chrisstone.contact. chrisstone.contact. That'll take you to all of my stuff. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, and you can, go follow Dealcasters on Amazon if you want to. You can even go to a Pinterest page or a TikTok or email me or leave me a voicemail. All that will go into it if you go to chrisstone.contact. And I'd love to be able to connect with whomever that is friends with Junaid Ahmed, because if you're friends with Junaid Ahmed, you're friends with me. So, yes. Junaid, this has been an honor, completely and totally seriously. It's always great to share time with you, sharpening the irons, and I feel like I got a little bit better today because I was on your show, man, so I appreciate it.
Chris, thank you so much. You are a gentleman and a scholar and a really good friend, and I'll call you in a heartbeat if I run into any type of troubles. I mean, I feel like that's the kind of friend you are.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much again for coming on, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, man.
Thank you for listening to Hacks and Hobbies. You can find additional information on the guest today on the website hacksandhobbies.com. Please feel free to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out on upcoming interviews with amazing guests.